Your path of peace is littered with death. Justice now finds you.
Ogum deserves one last execution. Frost! Not yet.
Guillotine drops. Cowards! Fight or die!
Mere strength is no match for skill. I'll remove your head myself! We'll see about that.
First one's eye!
Not yet.
Requiem on high.
I cannot.
I will take out your heart and savor each bite. Allow me to clear your mind, if only for a moment.
Hi guys, Dabity here. So I think I figured out the build. I think this current loadout and setup that I have will basically take me to endgame with some tweaks and adjustments. But I'm liking where this build is going, and I'm liking how this build is playing. The damage seems pretty good. You know, maybe it's not the tankiest build in the world, but it's relatively tanky and you're freezing everything. So that's always nice. So let me talk about the changes that I've made and the deviations and kind of how this build plays out in the workflow or a skill rotation that you're going to want to go through when you're playing this game with this build. Okay, so let me just go over my gear real quick. So this is the staff that I got a while back. A friend gave it to me. It's an item level 37 staff, but has really great stats on it. I wish I, had some more quality on it and another socket, but it is what it is. This is a hat that I crafted all my gear. The only thing that was, I guess, a hand-me-down was this quarterstaff of a friend of mine. But here's the mask that I have. I like this mask. Evasion and energy shield. That's what I'm trying to go for with this character. This is a decent mask. And then this is my amulet. This is a very great amulet. I got lucky with this amulet. Basically, it had spirit on it, and then I slammed it twice, actually, I believe. Once. I slammed it once with an exalted orb, and I got evasion rating. So, great. It's what I want. It's what I need. And that spirit's very important for this build. You're going to try to get as much as you can because you're going to be running a bunch of persistent buffs. That takes spirit reservation. Now, this is the body armor. This dropped in Act 4 or Act 1 of Cruel. And I'm working on building this up. I'd like to get a socket in it and quality up when I have a chance. Again, notice that how it has spirit on it. And also importantly, it has some resist because resists are kind of hard to come by later in the game. So for example, I have 40, 46, 54, and 32. I'm definitely nowhere close to 75. And I have 8 chaos resistance. I'm glad that's at least not in the negative, so that's nice. These are the gloves. I've been rocking these gloves for basically ever. Here's a belt. I crafted this belt as well. I also used an exalt on this. I actually probably used, I used an exalt on this. I might have used an exalt on this. I think I did. And also I used an exalt on this, and I used an exalt on this, and I used at least one exalt on this. I think I got like the attack speed for the exalt. So that's cool. Now let's go over my flasks. I think this is a good flask. The gain, 0.25 charges per second. That's great for ultimatums because, if you have some energy shield and, you're not chugging flask all the time, this is enough to basically let you pick monsters do not give you flask charges when you kill them. And I have also, a mana flask as well. This build generally has okay mana regen. I have a lot of base mana. How it works is mana regen is based off of like your total mana, and then the percentage modifiers that you get on your tree modify that value. But basically my mana regen is from this right here. I stopped going here. I'm going like full DPS mode now. Getting these at the very beginning of the game, that's quite powerful. And coming up here, like this will basically give you some tank earlier in the game, which is really important, just for the first act or so, or 2 acts. But later on, based off of my tinkering and playtesting, you kind of just want to go like full PoE 1 mode, okay? That's damage, more damage. And I have like a decent amount of tank. I'm like not completely squishy. I have 50 evasion. My armor kind of sucks, but whatever. I got some energy shield, which is nice. And, I also importantly, I freeze everything. So, when you're freezing a monster, when a monster is frozen, it can't hit you. And that is essentially a defense mechanism. The pathing also, I'm kind of changing things up as I go along, figuring things out. Someone in my comments suggested resonance tech, which I wasn't even aware of. It uses a passive buff, combat frenzy, which is really nice. So basically, what this means is I don't have to freaking use killing palm. I don't like that skill. It's annoying. It's funky. It's an annoying way to get flash charges, and it doesn't work in the middle of a boss fight. So what you do is you use combat frenzy. It's going to reserve some spirit, and what that does is, basically it lets you leverage this when you're constantly freezing things, and you'll be constantly getting power charges for the entire time. You'll just be generating your own power charges, and then you can also use your charge staff whenever you want, which is a very, very strong skill that basically makes it so you shoot out projectiles with all of your attacks, and this is like what the shockwaves do. They're 5 meters in length. This is the damage, and this is compounded on top of the other damage as well. So it's pretty significant. But anyways, it's a tech to basically let you not worry about power charges and have basically power charges on all the time, so you can charge up your charge staff. Okay, so let's kind of go over the skill rotations that I have here and how you're going to be basically playing this build. So your starter is actually going to be Frostwave. Okay, so you shoot it out and it'll freeze monsters. I actually have I have more freeze buildup, I have freeze duration, and I have more area effect because I really want this. This is my initiator kind of, when I'm playing safe, and I want this cone as big as possible, so it can because remember you're jumping back when you're doing it, and so you really want a lot of coverage there. I was using increased AoE on the Tempest spell because the Tempest spell is awesome, but this is just this is more safe for mapping. It's that better area coverage is just totally worth it. So that's what I would do. That's your initiator. It is Wave of Frost. Okay. Then what you're going to do, and this is cool tech as well, is you're going to use the Hand of Chayula. Okay, which is a strike skill. It's unarmed. It's not going to do much damage. Okay, but it charges. It's a dash. It'll just charge to an enemy. Okay. And what it does is it both curses them and marks them, okay? Now, this is really cool because the Voltaic Mark basically puts like a landmine on him and it does a giant like shock nova explosion. Let's see, I guess not. But it does a big shock nova explosion after you kill the monster, okay? And also you have hypothermia on there, so they have, reduced cold resistance and increased, I believe this has, no, hypothermia just is reduced cold resistance. I thought it might increase freeze buildup, but it does in a way, because how elements are applied in this game is essentially through damage plus percentage modifiers. So let me try to explain it. So for example, for purposes of determining freezes, this is basically 50% more cold damage. And, again, we talked about the area effect. And then the freeze duration also is important because I want them frozen as long as possible. And basically what this means, similar to this, is it's treating the freezes that you do as if you'd be doing 50% more damage. So consider having like a support gem, 2 support gems that say you do 50% more damage. That's a lot. But again, it's not increasing your damage. It's only for applying freezes and freeze buildup. So just that's the way to think of it. Now, what I mean by that is that -33 cold resistance is essentially 33% more damage. So it's basically 33% better freeze. Kind of like 33% freeze buildup, if you will. Okay, so it's nice. You really want to be able to freeze stuff. Okay, now, anyways, you use Wave of Frost as your initiator, freezes the monsters. Then you charge in with a Hand of Chayula when they're frozen. It'll basically put a landmine on them and curse them. And when you kill them, they'll have a big explosion. You also have Herald of Ice, because you're freezing things all the time. And Herald of Ice has a big explosion. Also, what Herald of Ice does is it blinds the enemies and maims them, so it also makes them slower. And it usually just, kills regular packs for the most part. And then once you engage, once you charge in with Hand of Chayula, if you want to, basically you just go to town with your Ice Strike, pow 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 pow, and the same supports for Ice Strike again. That last hit, that's the big hitting hit, that will hit twice with Crescendo. Crescendo is really good with more attack speed, and then of course there's like no downsides to using concentrated effect on this. You just get the more area damage multiplier. It's pretty effective and cool. So that's what I would suggest. So again, you Wave of Frost to freeze them. Once they're frozen, you charge in with the Hand of Chayula. Then you beat them up with your Ice Strike. That will build your combo, and then you drop a Tempest Bell in their face. Okay, the Tempest Bell will wreck their day. In terms of the sports, you're doing a lot of cold damage, right? So, you're kind of limited what you have, but this is what I put. This is what I have here. I have more melee physical damage and more cold penetration. So then what you do, the other tech is Frost Bomb. So if you're going to do a boss fight, once you build up the combo charges and drop the bell in their face, you want to have a Frost Bomb out there, preferably front load the Frost Bomb before that on the boss. This way they get their cold exposure, because Frost Bomb has a cold exposure. It'll also nuke their life regen. Does it nuke their life regen? No, in PoE 1 it does. But whatever, the point is it will apply cold it will apply a cold exposure on them, and it's more effective because of this this support right here. And then you're using second wind, so you can have 2 of them out at once if you want. So this is mostly boss tech, or like just a nasty rare monster or something like that. Now, let's talk about some more tech that I fit into this build, which I'm really happy about. So before I was using Glacial Cascade, which is a great like poking boss skill, okay? But this is also a really good poking boss skill, okay? And this is Stormwave. And this is a nice damage dealer. And so I'm shocking with my Stormwave. Where is it? There we go. More chance to shock. So that's essentially treating the shocks as if I'm doing, 100% more damage, but it's not actually increasing the damage of Stormwave itself. But I really want to shock, and I'll tell you why in a second. And then I also have more weapon elemental damage, and I also have Rising Tempest. This seems to be kind of the best combination in what I have available. And that's like essentially 24% more elemental damage with no downside, because I'm cycling between frost skills or ice skills and lightning skills. I don't have a fire skill in this build. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to fit into Ignite in this build. We'll see. But anyways, what's so great about this is this will build up a lot of shock on the boss, okay? Or on the monsters that you're fighting. And that will then trigger your, where is it? Cast on shock right here. Okay. So, and then I have Orb of Storms. I was trying different spells out here. I tried Spark. I tried Ball Lightning. I've tried different things, but Orb of Storms is the best because right now, maybe end game, you'll be able to like shoot out a ton of these and build up a ton of energy, but I don't have the Soul Springs Eternal yet, which will really help build up that energy. Also, critting more, so I'm shocking more, etc. will also help. I was able to get this over here, which is really nice. And I also have on Cast on Shock, again, it's Orb of Storms, and I also have Impetus. So that's 40% increased energy. That's 8, 8, 8, and then plus 15. And then really what's so great about this is, more energy. Lovely. It's mostly just like utility and extra damage, because going back to why I'm using this skill, it's a boss poker, okay? And it's to like stay at range and strafe around the boss and mess up the boss. I was using Glacial Cascade for that in the past. But this has a slightly longer range, and it's a little easier to shoot with. And what's great about it is that when I do the Cast on Shock and I shock the monsters, it drops the Orb of Storms. And so whatever I'm shooting, the Orb of Storms will also double and shoot the monster as well. So it's basically just a way to increase my poke damage significantly. And yeah, it'll shoot out at other times. As you'll see, in the gameplay footage, I'm shocking all over the place, but it's really useful, like, basically during a boss phase where you're trying to like strafe around like different attacks and stuff. The Orb of Storms naturally comes out and starts shooting along with you with your own lightning bolts. It's pretty effective. So yeah, that's kind of the tech and the skill rotations that I'm using. I don't use this, but if you happen to run into a monster with like a mana aura and you don't want to like range them to death, well, you can use this, and this doesn't cost any mana. So that's something to think about. Now, let's talk about some other changes. Let's go to the skill tree. So again, how I have this spec'd is I'm going over here, getting the shock chance, because shock is good now, and then I'm getting some crit, and I'm getting this. And all these extra points, like, you can give and take. So, when you're building out other pathing locations, you can, there's all these really choice points over here, so you can, take one away, put another one over there or whatever. What I like to do is I kind of use all these great passive skills over here to like save up 3 points, and then I'll go buy a notable or something like that, right? Because this, I don't want to really put a point here and here. I'd rather have some of the stuff that's over here, like attack damage or whatever. So you save up 3 points, you spend a boom, 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 and then like, oh, then I'm gonna go grab this, So let me kind of point something out that's important. Attack damage is really nice, okay? It's one of the best ways to increase your DPS. And also, speed, attack speed, cast speed, that's also very important, and it's kind of hard to come by on the tree, and you get some right here. So, and also something to note is that how energy buildup works is that basically, if your cast speed on your meta skill, so for example, Orb of Storms, that's 8%, that's 0.8 cast time base, right? And then basically, if you have fast cast speed, it will reduce essentially the cost of the mana that you, or the cost of the energy that you need to trigger cast the spell, right? So these 3 points right here, where boom, 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 that essentially means that my Orb of Storms takes 9% less energy to build up before it triggers. That's just something to think about, okay? So let's talk about attack damage and all the places you can get it. So, you know, there's this right here. There's, again, everything around here is quite useful. Then you got this. Then you got this and this. And this is also, you know, fitting in attack damage when, you know, not obvious. So, for example, this right here, dynamism, that, like, I'm triggering stuff all the time, right? So that's 40% increased damage, okay? So it's basically 4 of these passives. Like, that's pretty good, okay? And then, like, yeah, there's some really nice stuff. That's 20% increased damage. Like, I don't really care about crit that much. I care about increased damage. And then you have this as well, right? That's 30% increased damage. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to try to make it over here eventually. And I have the updated skill trees and gem loadouts that I'll be using. I'm not coming up here. I'll get this eventually. But I might get this first. And then once I have enough points, I'll buy back all of these points and then rush over here and then go boom, 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 boom. Because this is where this is where the money is. Once I can get this, like, oh, it's so much quality of life, so much extra damage, so much everything. But I really want to get to here. And that's kind of my goal next. Maybe by the time I finish the campaign, I'll be able to get this stuff over here. So just to clarify, I'm level 53. I just beat Act 4 or Act 1 on Cruel. I'm now on Act 2 on Cruel. I really kind of like how my build is playing. I like the combinations of skills. Now, one other thing I got to mention, though, okay, is this Hand of Chayula. I actually have 10 skills. So how do I have 10 skills? Well, I have this ring right here. So I gambled for this ring. It was just a rare ring, and then I, you know, regaled it, and I think I chaosed it a couple of times. But this basically let me fit in Hand of Chayula because I really wanted a curse and I really wanted a mark. And this is just super strong. You just tag the boss with this, and it's totally worth it. And it's a gap closer, which is nice, right? Because when you do this, you get the monsters are frozen up here in the cone. However, you're further away from the monsters, and you need a gap closer. And this will just let you jump right over there, put basically a bomb on them, and debuff them. And when you kill them, they'll explode. And then there's also the Herald of Ice, which is another explosion on top of it. So that's kind of how it works. You know, you can watch the gameplay footage. You know, if there's enough interest, I was recording my boss kills. I can post, like, you know, the other boss kills for the different acts that I have. But, you know, the videos that I did post with boss kills, they weren't that popular. So I just think probably snippets of, you know, some gameplay and some boss kills, you know, as an introduction to the build videos or the build update videos that I'm coming out with is probably the best way to do this. So guys, I'm enjoying this class. I'm enjoying this build. It's working out quite well. If you have any questions, you know, just post them in the thread, and, you know, I try to respond to everyone. All right, take care. Bye.